If you would join with a warm welcome to the President of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, the Honorable Shirley Nya Jackson.
Well, good afternoon, and I'll turn your attention to our media aides. I want to talk to you a little bit. I'm delighted to join you here in Florida. Many of you I've seen on other trips. I don't know if you know that Florida is home to nearly 4,200 active alumni and alumnae that we know about, nearly 1,400 parents of former students, and about 242 parents of current Rensselaer students, and we want to thank those current parents who are here and former for joining us. Now, it's interesting, our alumni and alumnae in Florida, broadly writ, are working for quite a number of innovative companies and organizations, including IBM, Lockheed Martin, United Technologies, Harris Corporation, Raytheon, General Motors, Northrop Grumman, the Northrop Grumman Foundation, the United States Air Force, and the United States Navy. And just as Florida attracts many of our talented graduates, Rensselaer attracts some of the best and brightest young Floridians to our campuses as well as students in increasing numbers. And in speaking of increasing numbers, demand for a Rensselaer education never has been higher. For this year's freshman class, we had over 20,400 applications, and that's a record. And that compares to about 15 to 16 years ago when it was about 5,000 to 5,500. And it's the record, because it's a record, it's obviously higher than the year before. But importantly, and this is the important point, we're able to attract and enroll an extremely strong and diverse group of students. The SAT scores, some people track those, for the class of 2022 averaged 1,420. Importantly, it includes more women, international students, and underrepresented minorities than any class in our history. We have nearly 100 high school valedictorians and salutatorians, but equally important, our newest students include celebrated musicians, athletic champions, outstanding community volunteers, an author of 2 books, inventors, entrepreneurs, and at least 1 volunteer fireman. Now, that kind of demand is not a surprise because our programs are of high quality. And there are various entities that look at our programs and these are things that our students and or their parents pay attention to. Forbes recently ranked Rensselaer 14th on its list of best STEM colleges and universities. We have an information technology and web sciences program that College Choice has considered to be #1 among undergraduate programs at national colleges and universities. TFE Times has ranked our Masters of Business Analytics program in the Lally School 3rd. College Factual overall ranked our School of Engineering 6th as an undergraduate school, with 8 of our engineering degree programs ranked in the top 10, and among national universities, our School of Engineering is ranked quite high. Our undergraduate physics program ranks 6th by College Factual. And one of our newer degrees, although we've had it now for a while, our Games and Simulation Arts and Sciences program is always ranked in the top 10 by any entity that measures. And then the entity that really ranks schools of architecture is Design Intelligence. And our School of Architecture is not the largest, but it is ranked 13th in the nation. And our accomplishments emanate from the original Rensselaer Plan and the legacy that we build upon. And under our Rensselaer Plan 2024, we are seeing the results of a 20-year investment in the development of people, programs, platforms, and partnerships that ultimately lead and have led to a comprehensive change in every aspect of the Institute. And we operate under the paradigm of what we call the new Polytechnic, and have used that to articulate the transformation of Rensselaer and to make it a transformative force in the world. Now, as many of you already know, Polytechnic comes from Greek for skilled in many arts. And as the new Polytechnic, though, we still educate our students for deep knowledge in their chosen fields, but also for intellectual agility, the ability to see across a broader intellectual milieu and to work with people across that frame, for multicultural sophistication and a global view. In other words, for the kind of perspectives that cross borders and foster creativity, innovation, empathy, and of course, leadership. At the same time, as the new Polytechnic, we view Rensselaer as a great crossroads for collaboration across disciplines, sectors, geographies, and of course, generations. Collaborations that are innovated and supported by the most advanced tools and technologies, and focused on the greatest of global challenges and opportunities. That we say you got to focus on what matters to educate well. And so we lead the way in areas of research that are of fundamental significance in the 21st century. And that was a commitment we made a number of years ago. And there were those who worried that our focus in research would hurt undergraduate education. But our undergraduates, and you're going to hear from three simply stellar ones shortly, are partners in everything we do. Now, we focus on 5 signature thrust research areas that are crucial areas of multidisciplinary research based upon the growing interface of the basic sciences and engineering with the arts, with business, with architecture. And it provides the basis for innovative solutions to today's global challenges, including focusing on human health and the prevention and mitigation of disease, on ensuring food, water, and energy security, developing new, clean and renewable energy sources, establishing a resilient and sustainable national and international infrastructure, managing the allocation of valuable natural resources, including finding substitutional materials, and of course on national and global security. Now, our 5 signature research thrusts are these: biotechnology and the life sciences. And our focus there is on the nexus of the life sciences with engineering, the physical, and the computational sciences. And we focus on computational science and engineering, which includes data, artificial intelligence, and high-performance computing, but that includes neuromorphic and quantum computing. On energy, the environment, and smart systems. On media, the arts, science and technology, and nanotechnology and advanced materials. Now, our research in biotechnology and the life sciences, and John Dordick, who is our former Vice President for Research and the Howard P. Eiserman Professor of Chemical and Biological Engineering, is going to fill you in a little more on some of these things. But our research in biotech and the life sciences, combined with our expertise in big data and data analytics, has resulted, for example, in the first physiological test for autism. And you're seeing the man who led this effort. He happens to be the head of our biomedical engineering department, Professor Jürgen Hahn. And this physiological test with data is allowing earlier diagnosis and potential future development of better interventional therapies for autism. Now, most children with autism are not diagnosed until they reach the age of 4, as physical and psychological symptoms are not readily apparent at younger ages. But by applying an algorithm based on the levels of certain metabolites in a blood sample, we can accurately predict whether a child is on the autism spectrum, and to some degree even where on the autism spectrum they land. And so follow-up studies, in fact, have confirmed the exceptional success of this transformative breakthrough. But we have other breakthroughs by our scientists and engineers, including the bioengineering of therapeutics and antibacterial coatings for medical devices and other things. In fact, that's what John did, among other things, on molecules that include a contamination-free form of the anticoagulant heparin, which, as you know, is very important, and John's also been central in that research. And stem cells to aid in the treatment of diseases that include Alzheimer's, osteoporosis, and osteoarthritis. In computational science and engineering, our focus is on high-performance computing, neuromorphic and quantum computing, as I say, on big data and data analytics, and increasingly on artificial intelligence and machine learning. Now, through our focus on energy, the environment, and smart systems, we are exploring renewable technologies, energy efficiency, next generation nuclear power, and the understanding of global and environmental change to preserve the health and biodiversity of the planet. Through our focus on media, the arts, science, and technology, we're facilitating new approaches to networking, to advanced simulation, sensor design, haptics, and multi-scale modeling. And our research in nanotechnology and advanced materials is leading to the development of robust, affordable, and sustainable methods for manufacturing new functional hybrid materials and the hierarchical systems and products upon which they are based. Now, since the launch of the Rensselaer Plan, we have invested over $750 million, now approaching $800 million, in creating a world-class campus for research, teaching, and student life. And about half of what we have invested is for the new, such as the Center for Biotechnology and Interdisciplinary Studies, which is a 218,000 square foot facility that contains laboratories for molecular biology, analytical biochemistry, microbiology, imaging, histology, tissue and cell culture, proteomics, and scientific computing and visualization. It includes the Center for Computational Innovations, which houses one of the most powerful supercomputers in the world, thanks to our partnership with IBM, and the most powerful supercomputer at an American private university. And it advances everything from semiconductor technology by taking it to the nanoscale, and it supports research in the fields of energy, biotechnology, and the life sciences, new materials, the arts, medicine, cognitive science, computer science, engineering design, business analytics, and computational science and engineering broadly writ. The Center for Materials, Devices, and Integrated Systems, which grew out of the Center for Integrated Electronics, but in fact is much broader today, is developing next generation optical, electronic and optical devices, manufacturing and advanced robotics, integrated biomaterial devices, energy harvesting and storage, electric transmission and distribution, responsive and adaptive built environments, and nanostructured composite materials. And that advances research that spans the range from fundamental discovery to systems level assembly and advanced manufacturing. And then, of course, there's the 220,000 square foot Curtis R. Priam Experimental Media and Performing Arts Center, which is like no other venue in the world. And it is a beautifully designed and marvelously engineered, technologically advanced masterpiece for both high-end performance and high-end research. And here, researchers, artists come together to inquire, experiment, develop, and experience the ever-changing relationship between our senses, technology, and the worlds we create. Now, the linkage of impact, as we call it, to the other centers I described is propelling Rensselaer to the scientific, engineering, and artistic frontiers of the 21st century. Now, the other part of what we've invested has gone to uplifting, rejuvenating, and moving the campus forward technologically, but also affecting where and how our students live. Our housing, the classrooms and laboratories for pedagogy, but our students as well are partnerships in all of the research we do. And so with the right people, programs, and platforms, our partnerships have grown substantially. Our research enterprise has grown from just about 35 million when I arrived to over 105. It's tripled. Now that's, you may not say, well, that's not hundreds of millions, but most of the hundreds of millions tend to come through universities that have medical schools. But we are affiliated with the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai in both research and education, fostering collaborations that are stimulating the development of new technologies to radically improve the diagnosis and treatment of human disease. And I'm going to leave John to describe a lot of that, but one recent initiative includes the Alzheimer's disease clinical and translational research training program that is empowering Rensselaer students to contribute to Alzheimer's research by exposing them to a broad range of biotechnology and lighting research on neurodegenerative diseases, and by participation in a summer clinical rotation in medical research at Mount Sinai. Now, through the Rensselaer Institute, we have lots of things here for data exploration and applications, or the Rensselaer IDEA, and in partnership with our great partner IBM, we have created the Center for Health Empowerment by Analytics, Learning, and Semantics, also known as HEALS, which brings together big data analytics, state-of-the-art machine learning, and the technologies of the semantic web, which provide a common framework that allows data to be shared and reused across application, enterprise, and community boundaries. And HEALS is a $5 million, 5-year, $20 million effort to prevent the progression of chronic diseases such as diabetes and hypertension. And we're working with IBM on the Jefferson project at Lake George, which some of us talked about at lunch, which is developing a new model for the conservation of freshwater resources. Our science-based model is driven in part by the enormous amount of streaming data that is delivered by 51 smart sensor platforms, which involve over 500 actual sensors that we have placed in and around Lake George, which, as you know, is an hour north of the Troy campus. And this project combines Internet of Things technology, predictive analytics, and basic science to create a comprehensive model for environmental monitoring and prediction. Now, there, the Helen Jo and John E. Kelly III Data Visualization Lab, a state-of-the-art research center for high-powered data visualization, meshes cutting-edge graphics processing with modern data collection, and is integral to the research then is located within the Margaret A. and David M. Darren Class of 40 Freshwater Institute on Lake George in Bolton Landing. What's interesting about these smart platforms is that they're able to perceive the changing environment around them and to make adjustments, such as taking more measurements when something interesting is brewing, such as a storm. And they are helping us to understand the lake as a system of systems so that we can protect its water and gain newer insights into managing freshwater resources around the world. Now, we have many other partnerships, but I will tell you about another one that's particularly interesting. And let me stop for a moment. You may say, why so much IBM? Well, Rensselaer historically has had a great partnership with IBM, but it has grown exponentially. And I'll just say to you that there have been Rensselaer graduates who've always gone to IBM. But two things you should know is that John Kelly, who is our alum and is now a trustee, oversaw the development of the Watson platform. But importantly, the Watson platform, both algorithmically and physically, was basically done and driven at IBM by Rensselaer alums. And so, you know, it's no wonder we have that partnership. And so one of those partnerships includes our Cognitive and Immersive Systems Laboratory, or CISL at Impact. And what it is doing is bridging human perception with intelligent systems and human-scale immersive interactive environments to create what we call a smart boardroom for strategic decision making, or smart classroom. And in fact, using hierarchies or communities of cognitive, namely AI agents, smart sensors, and data analytics, these are rooms that can see, hear, anticipate, and inform the occupants in multiple modes with the goal of vastly enhancing group decision-making and learning. Now, since languages and cultural immersion are key to global success, we have made an emerging class that teaches the Mandarin Chinese language and culture, namely the Mandarin Project, a prototype or test bed of the intelligent immersive classroom being developed at the CISL. Now, this class actually engages students by making them players in a semester-long game narrative, meaning they are in the game. And it uses mixed reality immersive environments that recreate the experience of, say, being in the Beijing airport, a Chinese restaurant, or a Chinese tea house for cultural immersion. And it actually brings together computer scientists, psychologists, cognitive scientists, linguists, artists, all of them to create this, and engineers. And the gamification actually requires students to complete tasks within a culturally significant setting by interacting with intelligent cognitive or AI agents. Not only do we find that the students learn more quickly in this approach, they learn within a cultural context. And once we have perfected this for Mandarin, which is a level 4 language, very difficult, then it becomes a platform for teaching language and culture in any language. And so it's gratifying to see that we were somewhat prescient in how we developed the Rensselaer Plan and identifying the technological innovation and research that really is at the leading edge. Because every day at Rensselaer, we make a deliberate and concerted effort to extend and deepen our institutional and global legacy of innovation by supporting the creativity of our students, our faculty, and industries along the continuum from the laboratory to the marketplace, and by fostering, along with our industry and government collaborators, an innovation ecosystem that does not allow great concepts to wither for lack of nourishment at a critical stage. And so how do we accomplish this? Well, we do it by educating talented and entrepreneurially minded young people in many different fields, by partnering with businesses to develop new approaches to their challenges and opportunities, by offering our partners access to our world-class platforms for research and development, and by supporting new companies that develop out of the groundbreaking research and scholarship that take place at Rensselaer. Now, as you know, history and the life cycles of technology suggest that 4 elements are necessary for a healthy innovation ecosystem, and we work hard to contribute to each one. The first is a strategic focus on the greatest of challenges and opportunities, which we accomplish through the paradigm of the new Polytechnic. The second is the generation of transformative ideas. University research, particularly fundamental research, unites seamlessly with our mission to educate and plays an indispensable role in generating ideas that eventually change the way that all of us live and work. The third element is comprised of translational pathways that bring ideas into the world for applied, commercial, and societal use. Now, you know, we created the first incubation program in the nation, wholly sponsored and operated by a university, to help several startups successfully bring their products to market. And we have deliberately evolved this model by creating the emerging ventures ecosystem, or distributed incubation, that more intelligently understands the varied needs of startups and the use of the remarkably diverse resources available to us in the capital region, in the country, and beyond. But above all, we underscore the culture of discovery, innovation, and entrepreneurship at Rensselaer by connecting our students with talented and knowledgeable people to mentor them, to provide advice and sometimes financing, and to engage in joint problem solving. And finally and crucially, an innovation ecosystem has to have capital. Obviously financial capital, but in the end, human capital. People talk a lot about innovation, but there is no innovation without innovators. And at Rensselaer, that is what we're in the business of, the development of human capital. And again, while we educate our students for deep knowledge in their chosen fields, we work to ensure that they develop skills that cut across disciplines. And so we are highly attuned to the opportunities created by emerging disciplines, and we expand our academic offerings to meet those disciplines. Now, we have a new focus, for example, on quantitative health economics in our economics department that we have totally rebuilt. We're developing a new Bachelor of Science program, which has now been approved in the Lally School in quantitative finance and analytics, and a new academic focus in artificial intelligence and machine learning. And that is why Rensselaer is the first university in the nation to include a data dexterity requirement in its core curriculum. We believe that no matter what field of endeavor our students will choose, they will need to use in their careers diverse data sets to define and address complex challenges. So all of our students now, and the faculty has made this part of the core curriculum, all of our students must complete 2 data-intensive courses to graduate. One to establish the foundations of data structures, data modeling and analysis, and a second course that applies modern data analytics within their given academic disciplines. But then we talk a lot about multicultural sophistication and a global view. And so we offer and want to offer even more significant opportunities to our students to test their acquired knowledge out in the world through approaches such as the Arch, which we have been piloting for the last 2 summers and which will be fully implemented this upcoming summer. And under the Arch, all rising Rensselaer juniors will remain on the campus the summer after their sophomore year, taking the full complement of junior level courses and benefiting from the undivided attention of our faculty and our student life professional staff. And this is unique, and it allows them to also happen to be in the area in one of the most beautiful times of the year and to take advantage of unique opportunities. And so this then will allow them to spend a required semester or more away from campus during the traditional junior year and beyond, and still graduate in time. And with the help of our Center for Career and Professional Development in the Student Life Division and hubs in the academic schools, the students will choose an away semester experience that suits their needs and passions and enhances their professional development, whether it is an internship or launching a business or doing a volunteer or research experience or an approved individual learning experience. And we are encouraging and will encourage all of our students who can to go abroad in order to gain insights relevant to the larger world. And so as alumni and alumnae, as parents, as family members and friends, I am asking you to consider what opportunities might exist in your frame for our talented and dynamic students to work within your companies and organizations and ones that you have influence with here in Florida during their away experiences. Because it is through our expanded relationships and partnerships that we together will help these young people to be positioned to address the world's greatest challenges and opportunities. Now, Greg and I just returned from Stuttgart, Germany, where we had the pleasure of hosting a luncheon with a diverse group of alumni and alumnae. By the way, that is the Mercedes-Benz Museum in Stuttgart. And so we hosted a luncheon with a diverse group of alumni and alumnae and even a couple of parents from across Europe And we did pay a group visit to the Mercedes-Benz Museum, which celebrated the 133-year history of the automobile that was invented by, they say, Carl Benz in 1886. Now, we also took advantage to meet with senior leaders at two prominent manufacturing companies, the WMF Group, a leader in commercial grade cookware, and with the Trump Group. And that group is a market and technology leader in machine tools and lasers for advanced industrial manufacturing. Now, we chose Stuttgart because it is one of Europe's leading economic regions, and it is home to some of the most innovative companies in the world. Companies that are driving innovation in the automotive, engineering, clean energy, information, and communication and media technology industries, and with whom we seek to create and expand upon mutually beneficial partnerships in research and education, including creating opportunities under the arch for our students, which they, in fact, have agreed to do. So this trip to Germany also is part of the rollout of our billion-dollar capital campaign, Transformative, Campaign for Global Change, which we launched in October of 2017. Since the launch, we have been traveling across the United States and around the world, meeting with leaders from across the Institute to engage with Rensselaer by bringing people together to connect with each other and to strengthen their respective bonds with the Institute. Domestically, we have hosted events in New York City, in New Jersey, in Washington, D.C., in Boston, Connecticut, Florida, and California. This past October, we returned to New York City for our second East Coast Scholarship Gala. And as part of the gala, and in celebration of the launch of our new Bachelor of Science in Music degree program, which is one of 22 new degree programs at Rensselaer we've developed under the plan, we made Rensselaer history with the first ever performance by the students of the Rensselaer Orchestra at the world-renowned Carnegie Hall in New York City, which was attended by an audience of more than 1,200 people. Not bad for that Troy STEM-based institution. Now, in addition to Stuttgart, internationally, we also have visited our alumni and alumnae in Shanghai and Hong Kong, and the prior year in Dubai and in Zurich. And throughout our travels, we have worked to bring the paradigm of the new Polytechnic with us, but by providing, of course, an update on the state of the Institute, but also by inviting our talented students and our renowned faculty to speak about and illustrate the innovative pedagogy and groundbreaking interdisciplinary research taking place at Rensselaer. And so we look forward to providing you with a research update and to let you hear from some of our wonderful students, undergraduates and graduates, who will share some of their experiences with clustered learning, advocacy, and support for students. And I will say overall that the response that we have received from the Rensselaer community to our outreach has been overwhelmingly positive. And we've received strong support for the three pillars of our capital campaign, which include eliminating the gap between student financial need and the scholarship and fellowships that we're able to give. Secondly, by endowing many more professorships to attract and retain the very best academic talent, and to ultimately expand our tenured and tenure-track faculty to 500 in critical areas of teaching and research. And third, by physically and technologically continuing to upgrade and expand the Troy campus, including building a new center for science, expanding the Johnson Engineering Center, and completing phase 2 of the East Campus Athletic Village while we look at the expansion of housing and continual upgrades of our classrooms and undergraduate laboratories. These goals are essential as we move into our third century. And so with the ongoing and robust support of the entire Rensselaer community and its partners, I'm more than confident that we will succeed in building the endowment that we need. Because we intend to attract the very best students, regardless of their socioeconomic background, because we are committed to Rensselaer living and learning environments that serve as the crossroads across disciplines, sectors, cultures, geographies, and generations that reflects the world into which our students will enter. And because we do believe that intellectual agility, multicultural sophistication, and a global view are the essential attributes that will enable our graduates to lead in the 21st century and to affect the kind of positive change in the world we need. Because of these things, we owe it to our students and to the legacy of Rensselaer to enter our third century as a globally prominent leader in education, research, and technological innovation with the resources required to accomplish our goals. Because, frankly, the world needs that particular combination of qualities that each of you possesses and that our students possess, namely the audacity, the creativity, the pragmatism, and the refusal to be daunted by the scale of any problem that confronts us. And that's what we nurture at RPI. And so we hope that you will join us and continue to join us to ensure that the most inventive, ingenious, and dedicated young men and women on earth continue to emanate from our classrooms, our laboratories, and our maker spaces for generations to come, because that is how we shape the future, and that's how we've done it since our founding. And we intend, as we always have, to educate those that will uplift lives everywhere, and with that, to change the world. Now, I'm going to change the program slightly because I think it's important that we get to your being able to hear from the students. But before that happens, I want to, with pleasure, welcome my special advisor on strategic initiatives, who is the Howard P. Iserman Professor of Chemical and Biological Engineering and former Vice President for Research at Rensselaer, Dr. Jonathan Dordick. John is a superb world-class researcher, a superb faculty member, and a superb strategic leader, and he is an entrepreneur. And so, John, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the research is, and then you will hear from our new Vice President for Student Life, Peter Konwerski, who will lead us into our students. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dr. Jackson. You already described much of the research. I'll be very quick, and I'll just kind of stand out here and I can see things. But you know what I thought I'd do to start with.
Give me 1 second, John. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I'm just going to talk anyway. What I thought I would do, and you'll see this very shortly, is give you a snapshot of the university, some of the areas that really are quite meaningful. And then you get a real sense as to where it is today compared to where it was when any of you were there, and to see all the opportunities that lie ahead. So this is a wonderful building. Actually, this is my office here. I should just show that right here. I really like being there. It's a great facility to do world-class research, and without facilities like that, it would be an uphill battle to be able to do the great research and to recruit the faculty and to recruit the students. Yes, it's a research facility, but it's loaded with students, undergraduate, graduate students that come in, study there, and also do research in the laboratories there. So let me just give you a sense of who we are, what we are by the numbers, what you are, what your alma mater is by the numbers. We have 5 schools, of course, and you know those 5 schools, but we also have a plus. It's a program in IT and web sciences, but now that's advancing even further. What we're doing now is expanding that to artificial intelligence, data analytics, and so forth. You're going to hear a lot more about that over time. Probably over the next year, there will be fundamental changes to that that will then lead us more broadly down that path of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all the things we hear about every day. But now what do our students need to gain from that? You'll hear from that. In terms of our research, as Dr. Jackson mentioned, about $105 million. About 3/4 of that comes from the federal government. Not great today, including NSF, which is shut, but nonetheless, it does really form the basis for the basic research that's underway at the university. We have increased the industry funding. It's important, not because it's necessarily applied. In fact, some of it can be very basic, but because that is a link to then being able to both allow the students to understand what's out in the real world, also to be able for the faculty to address very important problems by using their skill set and skill sets of groups of faculty. It's about 14%, actually I think it's now getting closer to 16%, which at this point in time as a percentage is probably second in the nation to MIT, which shows now what kind of interactions we have with industry. Of course, we have state, we have foundation support through Greg's office, who's been very integral and integrative within the research enterprise. And we are Carnegie Class 1, R1 classification university. That's the highest you can be. That is meaning that we are a major research doctoral institution. Not bad for a relatively small school from Troy over these years to be in such a category. And then in terms of the community, we have about 6,800 students, 1,500 graduate students, about half of those are PhD students, 480 faculty, about 340 tenure track, and we're looking to grow that substantially. A large number of academic programs, new degree programs, including the BS in music that the president mentioned. We're about 1/3 women, and we continue to climb there. About 16% underrepresented minorities, we continue to climb there. And you can see the number of applicants that we had last year, and we expect to have the same number, if not more, this year. And we have a very large alumni base. We know a lot of them, but we don't know every one of them. We do rely, I think, on a lot of our alumni that we do know to help us identify those we don't know. So if you take a look broadly at the Rensselaer Plan, the most recent one that was completed in 2012, which takes us to 2024, which is, of course, our bicentennial, we focus on a number of key areas, one of which is infrastructural resilience, sustainability, and stewardship. And I'm not going to go through every one of these, but this is kind of a collage of many of the things that Dr. Jackson already talked about. The signature research thrusts fall directly into both this and the next thing that I will mention. But of course, we're transforming the development of new materials. Those materials, anything from biomedical to electronics, to new materials that form the basis for the new computers that you're going to be using down the road. Of course, we worry about healthcare and the ability to afford it, the ability to have safe healthcare delivery, and that's something that falls into this as well as our ability to respond both to man-made and natural disasters, the ability to get supplies in and to understand transportation systems. And in fact, the built environment is a major part of that, because all cities are, of course, a built environment. How do people work? How do people live? How do we enable both human health to be and human productivity to be able to come together at their optimum? And indeed, we've opened up a new institute in Brooklyn, New York, in Industry City. And you're going to hear a lot more about that over time. That is an off-growth of our Center for Architecture, Science, and Ecology, which will be part of that. And so we're building a research center as well as an educational center down in Brooklyn. And again, you'll hear about that over the coming year, and I think it will be a significant addition to Rensselaer, both, of course, in Troy, of course, in Hartford, Connecticut, and now down in New York City. We adapt to changing environments, much like nature, much like biological systems adapt to their environment. We're learning how to adapt to changing environments that change very rapidly, to design things without having to necessarily build them. For example, being able to design new aircraft parts, new aircraft wings, new aircraft tails. The reason a tail on an aircraft is so big has nothing to do with really flying at cruise. It's simply being able to take off and land. And so an awful lot of energy is wasted simply based on that kind of design. developing new materials by deciding on a computer what you'd like and having it be built, the 3D printing that you know about, but really advancing beyond the standard things that you can buy at the store into different kinds of materials that today cannot be used in 3D printing, and that will revolutionize what can actually be generated on demand. Our abilities to be sustainable is critical. The President mentioned Lake George and the Jefferson Project, I'll mention in a moment as well. But how do we protect our environment? How do we exploit what the environment can give to us without destroying it? And then, of course, human health overall, and being able to understand disease, be able to predict disease, and be able to treat. The second area is what we call beyond the internet. Digital meets reality, and of course you can imagine what that might be, but if you take a look at all the different components that fall into this, you'll see the breadth that does exist today, from healthcare analytics that really ultimately will be a major part of what these are today, and so that you will effectively become the CEO of your own healthcare. And what that means is that you'll have more control, more ability to understand what's going on and make changes to your lifestyle. And that's going to have significant impact both in how you live and how healthy you are. We talked a little bit about business and management, a number of the new programs in place, but in addition to the academic programs, there's a complementary research component that could be very critical in terms of how we develop new markets and how we can exploit various new markets and so forth. The Built in Natural Environment, the Jefferson Project, is a perfect example of this, where you have networks of sensors of different kinds that measure the chemistry, the biology of the lake, the fluid flow, the tributary flow, the runoffs from rain and other atmospheric events, and of course the weather stations. Putting that all together to predict what the lake is going to be doing and how can you protect the lake. And actually we go back about 10,000 or so years through core samples to know what the lake was like way before humans, of course, had interacted with that lake. We worry about protecting our privacy. Cyber resilience is very important, not just individually, but in virtually all companies. And quite frankly, when you get to the cyber physical aspects of that, this is a concern because that runs many of the things that impact our lives. And in some cases, depending on if you have various medical devices in your body, it could control some of that. So we worry about these things. How can we be both open in terms of being able to share data, get data across the board, but at the same time protect how we use that data and how we can access it. And just very quickly, a few other things. For example, in social network analysis, we have a center. It's been sponsored by the Army for now about a decade, called the Social Cognitive Network Academic Research Center. And that deals with what's happening in the social world, looking at tweets, looking at networks, in some cases maybe dark networks, getting a better understanding of what might be the threats that are out there and how can we understand those threats, how do we respond to those threats, and so therefore, again, how do we protect ourselves. The high performance computing, we've got over a petaflops right now, which is, as the President mentioned, the largest of the private university. We're going to increase that 5-fold, maybe up to 10-fold through our cooperation and collaboration with IBM, as well as getting significant amounts of funding from the National Science Foundation to be able to augment that. And so we will clearly be the largest of a private university in the U.S. and perhaps in the world. And that allows us to do all the things that the President talked about and what I have talked about as well. One area that falls into both of these, but as Dr. Jackson brought up, really was one of the early investments that the President made when she came to Rensselaer, was the investment in biotechnology. And yes, you see that nice, beautiful building, which is now almost 15 years old, and yet it looks like it was just opened yesterday. That's not because there's no research being done in it, so it's pristine. Now, we got a lot of research being done, but it's just well cared for, and it was well built. And this investment is quite significant. When you look at the building, when you look at the faculty that have been hired, when you look at what the students are being provided, the equipping of the facility, we're looking at investments over $150 million, which really is unparalleled at most universities, and certainly one the size of Rensselaer. So our goal here is really to go from two different levels, from the high level, which is populations of individuals, data that comes from that, feeds ultimately down to what's in your genes, and then being able to go the other way so that we can develop better therapeutics, so we can give you better drugs that are safe, drugs that are selectively useful for you specifically rather than just for the general population. It's expensive to do that. Pharmaceutical companies really haven't been able to come up with that. But that's really where things are going, and that's what we're going to have to be prepared for. We're dealing with research at a number of different levels, diseases that are difficult. We're not developing or going after diseases that are well understood. We're going after diseases which are ravaging society and which are not well understood, whether it be an Alzheimer's disease, as the President mentioned, autism. These neurodegenerative diseases are very difficult to understand, and that's why they've resisted very good solutions to solving and developing therapeutics. But by better understanding what's happening across populations, we're getting more and more data, more and more insight that can be translated then into the bench, into the research. And so I'll just conclude here just by giving this very famous quote by our founder: "For the purpose of instructing persons who may choose to apply themselves in the application of science for the common purposes of life." Remember about 200 years ago when Stephen Van Rensselaer put this quote, said this, persons is an unusual term, because normally back then it would have just been men. So maybe he had an inkling that this is not just for men, and it's really for both men and women as they make their way through a university into society. So thank you very much. Let me spend just a minute introducing our new Vice President for Student Life, Dr. Peter Konwerski. So Peter is the newest member of the cabinet, and he joined Rensselaer just about a month ago. Actually, a few weeks ago. How's that? I forget what month it is. He holds a Doctor of Education and Human Development, a Master's of Arts in Higher Education Administration, and a Bachelor of Arts in Human Services, all from the George Washington University. Prior to joining Rensselaer, Peter served as the Vice Provost and the Dean of Student Affairs at GW. He's a highly accomplished and experienced student life administrator, now with well over 27 years of service in numerous academic, professional, and leadership positions. So please welcome Dr. Peter Konwerski.
Well, thank you for that introduction, and I really appreciate the warm welcome to Rensselaer. I don't want to take more than a minute or two to give you this high-level overview, because really, I think we want to hear from our students as quickly as possible. But I will say, I'm going to talk about clustered learning, advocacy and support for students, just to set the context. This is actually the paradigm in which we think about delivering the Rensselaer Plan, and President Jackson just referred to this, but this is actually the pedagogy which was inspired by her leadership, and it's a demonstration of the passion and commitment to student learning and growth and success. We're really trying to provide the success and support that our students need in the classroom and outside. I will say, President Jackson just referred to the Rensselaer Plan. These are the three pillars that we're constantly focusing on. We're focusing on intellectual agility, multicultural sophistication, and a global view. And through a variety of programs and services and activities, whether it's leadership development, or focusing on ethics, or professional development, or focusing on the students' health and well-being, or safety and security, we're imbuing in them the ability to, grasp hold of these concepts, learn them, apply them, and then take them forward. And as you know, we want our students to go forward and change the world, and they're doing that. And you're going to hear some of those stories today. This isn't done alone. It's done as a network of collaboration. We have class deans that stay with the students, and they work with them over their 4 years. We also have residential deans who are embedded in our residential communities. And our model is cluster-based. So the students stay together, freshman with freshman, sophomore with sophomore, and they continue through that collaborative model with colleagues across campuses, colleagues in all of our academic schools, their advising centers, and all the academic resources to work in parallel to make sure students have the resources and support they need. Now, not to think this was left alone, we also continue. This model stays with them in their Greek experience, if they're in the Greek Life Commons, if they've joined a fraternity or sorority, and you'll hear a lot about that in the next few weeks as we talk about kind of the renewed focus on supporting and enhancing Greek life. We've really built an infrastructure to support that with a Greek Life Commons and an off-campus student commons. So even as a student moves into junior or senior year, they're getting those resources and support that stay with them. And so programs like Safe Rides is a good example where we continue to model that support. And then the only other thing I want to say is this really is the complement to class is Arch. And you're going to hear students kind of refer to Arch, but we'll continue to have this dialogue about the importance of Arch as the next step in the evolution of the new Polytechnic. And what we will be doing this summer is preparing those sophomore students who are at this pivotal moment in their academic careers, preparing them for their next step. And as we think about that, the president just referred to whether they're embarking on cooperative education or an internship or something global. Maybe they're going to start a small business, or they're going to start a social enterprise. They might do civic engagement. That's what we're preparing to support them this summer. They'll be fully engaged in the academic community, and then they'll also have pop-up courses and other activities, excursions, field trips, as well as recreational and social activities that both build their sense of community, but also prepare them to step off. So. I think John's quote was actually timely, and I think it's a good point to make the transition to our students. The reason we're all here is to support these incredible students. So you're going to meet 3 students today who are going to tell you a little bit about their academic journeys. They're going to go in specific order. Geetika, I think, is going to be our first. She's actually from the closest to Rensselaer. She's from Chatham, New York. She's a sophomore, and she's studying biology and psychology. She'll be followed by Nya, who is actually from Georgia. So she's from the South here, so she's not that far from home. She's an architecture student in the class of 2019, and we have an interesting opportunity to hear from Gino, who's actually an alum and also a graduate student, and he's going to talk on his perspective as both a graduate student and also a recent alum in mechanical engineering. So please join me in giving them a warm welcome, and we'll start off with Geetika.
Firstly, thank you everyone for being here, and thank you for that wonderful introduction, Dr. Konwerski. Geetika Verma, biology pre-med major of RPI class of 2021. This is a phrase I've used numerous times in conversation and on paper, inside and outside the classroom, with my peers and with professionals. While it takes merely 5 seconds to say this phrase, the 3 critical components of it, my name, my institution, and my major, encompass all the hard work I've invested over the past 19 years so I could stand before anyone, stand before you all today, and proudly present myself as such. However, in order to appreciate what we have today and what we wish to have one day, we must remember what we started with. I started my journey about 8,000 miles from here in a small town in India where, under the umbrella of my close-knit family, I morphed into the dedicated, resilient, and determined Geetika. However, as my path continued into America, the land of opportunities, the other qualities of my initial phrase, the other qualities of the person I am today, started to lay their foundations. As someone who was intrigued by the human body and engaged in community service from a young age, I knew I wanted to become a doctor. Even today, when I look back at my old elementary drawings or posters and see the phrase, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I always find the word doctor next to it. Biology was a topic I resonated with because of my consistent visits to a doctor in my past and the perspective of becoming that saving grace for someone else in my future. However, I knew that in order to transition from being a patient to a doctor, I would have to change my present. While I knew that hard work would act as my fuel, constantly igniting me to work towards that goal, I now sought a vehicle that would help bring me to that destination. But it could not have just been any random vehicle. It had to be drivable, reliable, affordable, comfortable, and supportive. The college or university that we choose to spend 4 years of our lives at is exactly like this vehicle. As students, we seek a college that is reputable, affordable, resourceful, and pleasurable. This way, we can perceive our college as a form of transportation that will pick us up from one spot as high school students and drop us off at another as professionals. However, in order to reach the accurate destination, we must act as the drivers navigating our college experience in the direction that we wish to take. That vehicle for me is Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. While initially I viewed Rensselaer simply as my sister's university, I knew the moment I came here in student orientation and participating in Navigating Rensselaer and Beyond that this was my home. The campus was familiar, the professors seemed personable, the organizations appeared interesting, and the student body was accepting. I was no longer a family member of an RPI alumna, but rather a Rensselaer student myself. This energy of being a student at Rensselaer, combined with the class opportunities, clustered learning, advocacy, and support for students, has engendered me to break free from the boundaries of the classroom and widen my experiences by engaging in organizations such as RPI Red and White, I-Persist Mentoring Program, the Learning Assistance Program, and the 2018 Student Orientation Team. The class initiatives in particular have acted as the branches of the university and have permitted me to branch out of my own comfort zone, not only as a student, but also as a peer and individual. Through these opportunities, I've been able to connect with my peers currently at Rensselaer who constitute our student body, the professional staff members who work behind the scenes to enhance our experiences here, the alumni and alumnae who were once in our shoes, and the incoming freshman class of Rensselaer who are the future. My experiences welcoming Rensselaer's class of 2022 as a student orientation coordinator in particular have permitted me to see the beauty of the paths that all the different students take to actually be here. And now as a learning assistant, I live in the residence hall and act as a constant academic and social resource for those very students. Those very students that I met in the summer as a student orientation coordinator and led through a variety of programs, those students I taught chemistry to through the I-Persist Mentoring Program last year, and those students who I interact daily with now as their LA. All these experiences have coalesced under the class umbrella and showcase the means through which one's varying paths of Rensselaer can unite as one. Therefore, while I'm thankful to have chosen Rensselaer, I thank you, Rensselaer, for choosing me, for allowing me to be a piece of your greater puzzle, and most importantly, believing in me and my aspirations. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Lunch was great, so thank you very much. All right, good afternoon. My name is Nya Jackson, and I'm honored to have this opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself and my Rensselaer story. I'm currently a fifth-year architecture student, and I'm pursuing a co-terminal degree in the Lally School of Business, where I hope to graduate with my MBA. Since I've been here, I've had the chance to travel to the other side of the world and somehow end up in China, where I hope to work when I graduate, and in Hong Kong, where I received an amazing opportunity to begin learning about mycelium, and even to start designing an installation that will be exhibited around the world. All while trying to figure out the least painful way to get up to campus from downtown Troy. Now, after a grueling 5 years here, soon to be 6.5, trust me, I have quite a few stories. But let's start at the beginning of my time here. We all know the motto of RPI. Why not change the world? We've heard it a million times, and we probably will hear it a million times more. When I came to RPI, it seemed like such a basic phrase, so simplistic and overly optimistic. Sometimes words are just words, but sometimes they grow to be so much more than that. I didn't realize how much power that motto would hold for me as I would move throughout my academic career. When I entered RPI, I was like every other freshman, a deer in headlights. From trying to understand the intensity of what calculus is, to deciphering what my professors were saying, and even trying to figure out where my classes were, my head was spinning. But at a place like RPI, they know that creating a formula for producing inspired and powerful people isn't an easy process. You can't change the world by taking the well-traveled route. We all know nothing is worth doing if it's easy. You change the world by making people into the best versions of themselves. And Rensselaer does just that. People at Rensselaer, and not just your professors, but your classmates as well, push you harder than you've ever been pushed, which is why the school knows you'll need support and guidance along the way. And class is a part of that meticulously crafted formula of support. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm no mathematician, and as part of freshman year, I was required to take calculus. And let me tell you, between that and trying to figure out how to use Rhino, and trying to understand derivatives. I felt like a chicken with my head cut off. But here we have something called ALAC, and thank goodness for him. One of their many responsibilities is holding tutoring sessions in many courses. And luckily for me, they had one in calculus. Needless to say, with a lot of help from ALAC, I was able to get through my first semester. I believe that the true power of class, or clustered learning, advocacy, and support for students is a devotion and continued commitment to every student's well-being, from both the faculty, the professors, and students all around campus. It has allowed me to carve my own path through my education and ultimately where I want to take my career, by allowing me to meet amazing professors who have supported me throughout my entire time here. Class has shown me that changing the world isn't some cliche saying. It's about seeing a need and answering the call. As a future architect, I want my mark on the world to be one that focuses on helping people who've been victims of disasters. I want the knowledge I gained from my research in mycelium, to the amazing experience I've had abroad, and even to my current role as the president of NOMAS, or the National Organization of Minority Architecture Students, to shape me into an architect who can leave her mark on the world, one project at a time. Thank you.
Hello. I'm honored to have been asked to represent the Rensselaer student community at this event. My name is Gino Gasbarro, and I'm an undergraduate alumnus of the class of 2018. I'm currently in the Mechanical Engineering graduate program to receive my Master's of Engineering in May of 2019, as well as taking the required courses to receive an advanced manufacturing certificate from the state of New York. Both my undergraduate and graduate studies are in the field of mechanical engineering. In addition, I have had the opportunity to receive Six Sigma and Lean Green Belt certifications during my time here at Rensselaer. I grew up in beautiful, sunny Southern California, and for those of you who might know the area, specifically the San Fernando Valley, you might wonder why this kid chose to leave that amazing weather and move to the sometimes bitter cold in upstate Troy, New York. Well, I'll tell you exactly why. When I was growing up, I was the child that was always tinkering with things around the house, much to my family's chagrin. From taking apart and putting back together, electronics, weed whackers, removing the kitchen cabinet doors in my early days, to even attempting to power a lawnmower with hydrogen gas through the process of electrolysis, I knew at a young age, when I grew up, I wanted to be an engineer. In high school, when I began my search, I had no idea where I wanted to go to follow my dream. All I knew was that engineering was the major I wanted to pursue. Not knowing where to begin my search, I simply Googled best engineering schools in the nation. That's it. Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, one of the nation's leading institutions in the area of engineering studies, was one of the schools that popped up on that Google search. Its programs were described as highly inventive and innovative. Prior to that, in my San Fernando Valley suburb, I'd never heard of RPI, but I can honestly say that applying, being accepted, and attending Rensselaer has most definitely been one of the best decisions I've made in my life so far. In my opinion, Rensselaer is like no other school, as it is an environment that supports innovation and collaboration. At RPI, we have the opportunity to directly apply the theoretical information that we are learning in the classroom into applications where we get hands-on and team-building experience. In the first-year curriculum, there's immediate immersion in labs and shop work to acquire exposure for our future. I had opportunities to gain hands-on experience since freshman year, where I learned basic machining and metalworking skills. In my senior year, I was able to take part in working out the development and manufacturing process of a team project with a group of classmates. Last semester, in my master's program, I had the opportunity to develop a high-speed machining and manufacturing process for a local bicycle company in the upper New York State region. It is classes and projects like these that give us students the opportunity to have a first-hand look at what it is actually like to work as an engineer in today's world. Not only are the classes and labs at Rensselaer outstanding, but this applies to the school community as well. I've been able to make connections with students, faculty, and staff through clubs and programs that I've been involved with during my time on campus. I am active in RPI Forge, a student-managed facility promoting the development of a maker community at Rensselaer, the Snowboarding Club, and Pi Tau Sigma, the Mechanical Engineering Honor Society, where I served as vice president during my junior year. Undeniably, for me, the most rewarding group I've been fortunate enough to be a part of is the I Persist mentoring program. This program gives a select group of students the opportunity to teach and work with incoming freshmen in the subjects of calculus, chemistry, and physics. I was a recipient of help and fellowship from this organization during my first semester of my freshman year. Coming from California, I did not know anyone, so I was a bit nervous to fly across the country and begin a new chapter in this unknown territory. This mentoring session was blocked as one of my first classes during my first day. The Calculus 1 mentor that was running the session was very personable and made me feel welcome in the Rensselaer community. As a result of the wonderful experience I had with this program, both academically and personally, I took advantage of the opportunity to apply to be a part of the mentoring team at the end of the semester. I wanted to give back and do the same for the future incoming freshmen. After going through the interview and sample teaching process, I had the opportunity to be a math mentor in my sophomore year. During my junior and senior years, I was one of 4 senior math mentors where we teach not only the incoming freshmen, but also act as mentors to the students who are new to the mentoring team. In addition, during the summer of 2017, I was asked to be a Bridge Scholar Mentor. This program is very similar to the I Persist mentoring program. As a mentor in the Bridge program, I had the opportunity to teach a much smaller group of students during an intensive 2-week on-campus program, followed by a 4-week online course leading to the start of the fall semester. This program was developed to help strengthen the participants' Calculus 1 skills prior to starting their first semester at Rensselaer. During this program, I was able to welcome and introduce these participants to what life was like at Rensselaer before they even started their first semester. In addition to teaching calculus, we went on weekend outings with the participants, doing such things as whitewater rafting, playing ultimate frisbee on campus, and spending a day at a local lake near campus. This was a very rewarding experience and was another opportunity where I was able to help students as they started their scholastic career at Rensselaer. While participating in the I Persist mentor program and acting as a Bridge Scholar mentor, I've had the opportunity and pleasure to get to know and work with many faculty and staff members in the RPI community. While I have been completing my master's degree curriculum, I am still active within the mentor program and am currently helping the faculty members in charge to further develop and continue to improve what is an already amazing program at Rensselaer. The classes, clubs, and organizations that I've been involved with have made a major impact on my life and really played a huge role in making my experience at RPI the greatest it can be. Because of the knowledge and skills I have gained during my time at Rensselaer, I was fortunate to get an early taste of the real world of engineering. During the spring 2018 semester, I was on a co-op working for Hasbro in Pawtucket, Rhode Island as a project engineer on the Play-Doh team. Yep, that's right. I did, in fact, get paid to play with Play-Doh. I went into the co-op wanting to perform to the best of my abilities and to leave a good impression of myself and as a student representative of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. I was lead project engineer on 15 projects for Play-Doh, with one of the projects slotted for TV exposure and expected to be one of the largest forecasted items for the fall 2019 line. I owned the required engineering development responsibilities, made sure that the project stayed on track, and worked to make sure that any issues that arose were addressed and solved immediately. I truly feel that because of the education I have received, I excelled and performed above and beyond my responsibilities as a co-op. As I am now in my last semester here at Rensselaer, I'm still pushing myself to learn more. Whether it is pertaining to my master's project, where I am developing a product and the required manufacturing process that will deal with pollution emissions produced by construction equipment, working as a teaching assistant for a manufacturing class, where I am supervising and training students within the Manufacturing Innovation Learning Laboratory to produce several hundred units of a product, or as I continue to work on other projects within my remaining curriculum, I am continuing to develop my breadth of engineering knowledge. I can look back on all of the moments and lifelong friendships that I have made and can say that I am a proud undergraduate and soon graduate alumnus of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. From a school that is the oldest technological research university in the United States, so rooted in its academics and hospitable sense of community, I can proudly say that I will take all of the knowledge and skills that I have learned with me on my future endeavors. On behalf of the Rensselaer school community, I truly thank you for your contributions that allow students like me to experience this invaluable first-class education and the opportunity to succeed in life. Through your financial generosity, Rensselaer students can become the future generation who will make an impact by answering the question, why not change the world? Thank you.